Everybody, welcome to Walk a Good Life with Dellmarie Dullknife Bradfield. And I guess I'm her co-host this morning for my Chue. Hihane Washte Chue.
Hihane Washte to you and to everybody else that's listening out there.
It's a beautiful morning.
I am just letting her know that we have real nice weather over here, and I'm sure in Michigan it's pretty cold, so we were talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This morning's topic is kind of important to me, and I just pretty much just really would like to tell you the way it was in the past in regards to a lot of our sacred ceremonies. I probably talked a little bit about some of this stuff in the past, but it's a concern for me when people delve into some of our religious ceremonies without knowing the deep understanding of the sacred objects and the symbolism of some of the objects, as well as why we do the things that we do. And of course, because we have not been able to practice our ceremonies until 1978, a lot of it has been lost, and it's being revived a matter of factly of how they remember things. And I am so fortunate to know that my Kyoshpai pretty much has practiced this. It was an ongoing thing way out in the boonies, even when it was outlawed. But I will go ahead and start out with the prayer, and then we will go as quick as we can here, because I think we lost some time here. So, Creator, we come to another day, and thank you for allowing us to be in your greater plan. For those who stay with prayer, and for those who need prayer, I send my prayers up in all different directions for all of your creation. I ask of you today that for those of us who are with prayer, that we stay with prayer, and to know that we will continue praying for those in need and for all the things that are happening in this world. It is only you that knows the outcome of our prayers. So, as I'm going to talk about our sacred ways, help me to say the truth and to talk about the truth of it as I know it. I know your words, my thoughts are because of what you put into my nasula, my brain, and in my heart, my chante. All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Del.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and say there's always mores, taboos, and laws of our ceremonies, and I think with every aspect of different rituals, different cultures, there is mores, taboos, and laws, and so sometimes we're not allowed to go ahead and talk deeply in regards to some of the things that are probably very sacred to us. So I'm going to go ahead and tap into a little bit of what I know, and to know how things start. But I'm going to start off with a pipe carrier. That used to be pretty much of a prestige, I guess, or an honor. It was a badge. It was a badge of responsibilities when somebody was able to go ahead and be a pipe carrier. And there's two reasons. There's similars, but apparently from a long time ago, it used to be where the memories of my teachings from my grandpa George, who was a medicine man, and my uncle Frank, who also was from Rosebud, Sichangru Oyate. He pretty much adopted me, and he was a spiritual man. He was a Wichashawaka. So a lot of the things that I've learned was through all the elders talking to me about it when I did my Ishnatipi ceremony. They explained a lot of these, which I still don't understand, and I'm still trying to learn from some of the elders that remember, asking them questions. So anyway, long time ago, there used to be 4 ceremonies that you had to complete before you became a pipe carrier, and a pipe carrier held a place of importance within our tribe. It was usually a member. It was usually a member of the Nacha Omanichia headsmen group, I guess is what we call it. Omanichia means meeting. Nacha means headsman. So that's how they were chosen in way long time ago to be a pipe carrier. And at one time, apparently I overheard this as they were talking about it, that there was only 4 within the Oglala tribe way in the past. And the reason why was these pipes were probably blessed in the sacred ceremony, and we call them chanupas. But basically, the chanupa was given or probably bestowed, or maybe I would probably say earned by somebody that they held in reverence and high regards because of wisdom. They were chosen because they were wise, and people came to them because they were the peace barrier, I guess is what they would say. Now, would you say that, Denise, is that was one of the big responsibilities, is to be a peace carrier?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's a misnomer about the chanupa that number one, there are still people that wonder what smoked inside a chanupa, and it's called by many names, but prayer and peace really is it, isn't it, Del?
What, excuse me?
Prayer and peace.
Oh, yes, prayer and peace, yes. And one of the things that I know, I think you probably earn that respect to be a pipe carrier, Mitankala, because people come to you for advice, for guidance, and that's really basically the way it used to be. So, in order to be a pipe carrier, you had a pipe bag that was pretty much adorned, or the designs was adorned, and it was kind of like a status. People knew that they came to you, and in return, when you went to a meeting in the past, it was always that you pretty much kept the peace among people arguing or discussing, some of the things that should happen within the tribe. So I guess you're pretty much a good person to be chosen as a pipe carrier.
I was just showing everybody the bag that you made for me, Chewy.
Oh, thank you. But anyway, before they were given this responsibility, long time ago, there was 4 ceremonies that a person had to go through, and usually it was a man, long time ago. And these ceremonies that they had to do, there was 4 of them, apparently, from what I remember, and what my dad talked about was they had to go through a Heyokha ceremony. And what is being done long time ago was more in depth than what we do now. We haphazardly do the ceremonies because the deeper part of it has been lost. It was usually done adopted a younger one. Now I can kind of understand why I got adopted by Uncle Frank, and it was because they say a long time ago a medicine man would a person that's being adopted used to sit in the teepee. I mean, it's kind of like a symbol where they sit in the teepee. It's like they're being held captive.
Mm.
And they would go around the teepee, and they would announce that, is anybody going to rescue this person, you know, and it was usually the Wichashawa, the elder that came and said, I will rescue and put this person under my wing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was basically the old Heyokha ceremony, is what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the whole thing being done when I was put in a teepee, and I remember they call it the town crier. I mean, I wouldn't say the town crier, but a person announced out there. I guess they were chosen for responsibilities, and I remember some horsetails that these guys had, and for whatever I know now, what it means was a long time ago that they used to, each time that you asked, will somebody rescue this person, then the medicine man or whoever would give a horse. So the symbol of the horsetail was these guys would wave, and I remember them doing that at my ceremony, which I really didn't know was going on until way later. Me being inquisitive, I asked those questions. So that was part of the Heyokha ceremony. And then they had the next one that they call Kapa Wakan Ieapi. It means throwing of the ball. I'm not really sure about this, but I remember that it was supposed to be a symbolism of the puberty rights of the young men. Somehow, when they throw this ball to each other or to whoever it was around the camp or whatever the ceremony was, and I'm not really sure of that, but apparently the ball symbolized a whirl. And you were held responsible for that whirl. So all I know about that is the gesture that's being made, and I'm not really sure about the ceremony on that. And then the next one, I guess there was a couple of them. Mine was Ishnan Tipiwe, and then there was also a buffalo right that came with the three that was for the women, the females, and the boys. Mm-hmm. So there was another one, apparently they call ghost owning, Nahegluhapi. Mm-hmm. They had to go through that ceremony because they know what grieving was about, to know that they would carry compassion in regards to be a pipe carrier. So all these roles that they had to do, these ceremonies, pretty much impacted the responsibilities of the pipe carrier. Now, all I know of the Nahegluhapi is when a person loses a child, especially, they, just like the grieving ceremonies that we do anymore, is, they keep a lock of hair. Mm-hmm. And through that whole year, as they're grieving, like what we do, we save materials, the possessions, mm-hmm. As much as what I heard my mom and dad say was, "Doha wanezan, doha wichak uptehe." As much as you can give, and as much as it hurts to give all your possessions, mm-hmm. that's what that ceremony was about. And so in the past, it used to be where people gave everything away, their pets, their horses, all their belongings. And I remember my mom doing that when my father passed away. She even gave up her home, everything that was in there, dishes, I don't care what it was, she gave that away. Wow. So that was part of the ghost owning. So that was one of the ceremonies that I know. And lastly, they say owns white buffalo, and the symbol behind owning a white buffalo is probably the robe that I understood. Uncle Frank talking about was it was so hard to get a white buffalo robe. That was one of the rituals or the ceremonies that you had to go through to possess one. How you acquired it, as long as you owned one.
Right.
So those were the 4 ceremonies that I was told that a pipe carrier had to go through, and those were some of the old traditional ways. It doesn't happen anymore, but on the other hand, too, as we do it with the sun dances, and people go through the vision quest and the sun dances, they acquire pipes. Similar responsibilities is, I think, when you go up on the hill and help me with this, Denise, because I think I've never sun danced and I never, I'm bloodshot. I do have a pipe. I don't really use it. It came to me like these, like I had explained one time. But that was the sole purpose. That was the sole purpose of being a pipe carrier, that forever you will walk with compassion and humility. Is that right?
It is right. And with regard to the Hunka ceremony, as you know, my first Hunka was a Wichasha Wakian, who happens to be a Heyokha man, a Western door man. And so when he made me his relative and began to teach me, some of the ceremonies that I went through after the Hunka with the Heyokha man was, of course, the Hamblecha, the vision quest. And there were other things that he put me through, for lack of a better way of saying it, the very first time that I went to Pine Ridge, and I had to sit inside Inipi with other Wichasha Wakan, Wichasha Wian at that time. And it went on for a long time. It was a different methodology of teaching me, but it went on for the deepest part of it in the beginning went on for 3 years. And during the course of those 3 years and the teachings, and when you're taught something, you have to live through it. And when you live through it with a Heyokha man, it's a little bit different than in other traditions. And some of the lessons are hard in ways that are hard to understand for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I'm coming to is the different practices of Wichasha Wakans and the Heyokhas. We have people don't understand that, but there's three ceremonies that Wichasha Wakans usually do, and they call it Yuwipi. Yuwipi, and there's Loa and Wapia. Those people don't really understand that these are some of the ceremonies that the Wichasha Wakan does. They think it's just, one thing that you go into ceremony. But each one of them was used to be different, and people don't understand that. The responsibilities, and I'm not really going to go in deeper in that, just because every altar is different. Every dreamer, elk dreamer, buffalo dreamer, Heyokha, the thunder dreamer, they're all different. So I'm not going to go into that in regards to what happens or how they do things, but I know these are the 3 things that they do. Yuwipi is when they are, and the symbolism, and I'm not really sure if you understood why Wichasha Wakan would be wrapped up in the star quilt.
Right, to travel to the stars, correct?
Yeah, yes, exactly. And that's the Yuwipi, the star symbolizes that some of the power comes from the ancestors, the star people, and most of the time people don't understand that. They don't understand the sacred objects. They don't.
That's true.
They don't understand the sacred objects that are used by a lot of these Wichasha Wakans, and some of them, some of the objects, like I said, they all have a symbol behind them. And so some of the objects that, they usually use in these ceremonies are, the rattles, the gourds, feathers, eagle whistle, and the flutes. Now, hardly anybody uses the flutes because people don't understand that the flutes belong to the Heyokhas. This is basically what I was told, and the reason why I know this is because we had an uncle that was a Heyokha, and as I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to finish with knowing the other objects that we use. There's your prayer flags, the tobacco ties, the sage, sweetgrass, the cedar. You know, the tobacco that's all used in here, the water, the fire. They all have symbolism. And I'm sure some of the people that come to your ENP, I hope that you've explained the usage of these.
Always.
So anyway, these are just some of the things that are used in ceremonies. And then some of them, like I said, there's flesh offerings. When the Tongashilas sometimes ask for flesh offerings because it's something that's so deep that you pray for. There's flesh offerings that are made, and I don't really see that very often, except for like sometimes at the Sundance.
Right.
So I've never seen it done in a ceremony. And I don't know if you witnessed any of that either.
Well, when Todd and I go to Sundance, whether it's at Arval's place or, you know, there are other places where we've been over there by Ma Rita, we always give flesh offerings when it comes to that day when the offerings are being made on behalf of our prayers and also prayers for strength for the Sundancers. You know, both Todd and I offer our flesh. And that can be a very confusing thing for people to want to know why on earth would you go and allow somebody to take, you know, pieces of your flesh off of your arms and put them in prayer ties. Would you talk about that for a moment? Because a lot of people misconstrue that, Del.
Well, flesh offerings, like I said, I've never done it, and I've seen it happen at the Sundance, and from what Uncle John around him I had mentioned, the flesh offerings when he talked to the people about that was probably given of yourself, wholly of yourself, for your prayers for the people.
Yes.
You know, you're pretty much sacrificing yourself for the people.
Yes, with every bit of the flesh that's offered. I remember the very first time that I offered flesh was at Arval Looking Horse's place. And for instance, for myself, as I was giving the flesh, each one of the pieces of flesh that's taken off of your arm, I offered a prayer. And a lot of those prayers were for the children. And the prayer for the safe house to be built, along with prayers for those that were out dancing and sacrificing. But, you know, offering of myself for the goodness of the youth. So it's done in a good way. It's done in a clean way. People often wonder, what's that like? It's done very respectfully. Yeah. And like I said, every dreamer is what I say, you know, when you dream about a buffalo or the elk dreamer or Wanafe and Heyokhas, okay, so there's different rituals, there's different responsibilities that these people have, and the power comes from that from those people, like the elk people, or, you know, Tatanka, the buffalo. Heyokhas, now I'm going to get into this, and this is kind of scary for me. It's kind of funny. I was kind of writing my notes last night, and the pen that I was using, you know, I think I was being fooled with, you know, because my pen kept running out of ink, or so I thought, you know, it wouldn't, I couldn't write, so I'd get a different pen. But I believe that those are just some of the ways that they come about, you know, is you know, they're full of trickery, I guess is what I say. And it's pretty much of a contrary, as the Washington word, the white word is they do things
backwards, but their power comes from the thunder beings. They dream about the thunder beings, the Wakia.
Mm-hmm.
And as I know, the responsibilities of the Heyokhas are more difficult and frightening.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're expected to act differently. And I remember a long time ago, the first time that I ever knew was a name. Johnny Fryer was his name, from Rosebud. And he used to dress up like they were expected to dress up like Heyokhas. You know, they make funny faces or they dress funny and stuff. And it was kind of scary for us kids. I didn't really understand that until way later. Like I said, I asked questions and just, you know, my dad would explain to me. But they always used to tell us to stay away, although our uncle was one. They said to be very careful because they do things backwards and you never know what they're going to do. So they can probably say, well, two things that they can, I mean, I'm going to use this as an example because my dad used them as an example. He said, when they say, wapiwa, I'm going to heal, is the opposite of what they're going to do. Is basically they would hex people. And they would probably say, wakunza. I mean, not wakunza, but, what is the term? But it's when they use the word hexing, they knew they were going to heal people. So you were always afraid of knowing what the intentions were because you never know the outcome.
Right.
So they always told us to be very careful because I think the fear that they put into us is because they had the power of the Wakians that, you know, they could, if they didn't like you or if they knew you did something, the lightning would strike you dead, you know.
Yes.
So those were just some of the things that we know, that I know, that I was told. And they were the ones that played the clown. They wore foolish clothes, you know. And
they wear hats and scarves and just like random, extraordinary hats and things, yes.
And there was a way that they used to do that, and there's two different things. They call it the kettle dance, but the Heyokhas apparently, to show their power, sometimes would dip their hands into a hot boiling pot, just to show that they had the power.
I've seen that on a few occasions, and it's part of the, as you're saying, when I've seen it, it's at Sundance. Heyokha Western Door Sundance, where and the very first time that I saw it was actually a Wichashawia that reached into the boiling water to retrieve the skull. And they were all dressed as Heyokhas. And to your point about doing things in the opposite, because that's the way that I've learned until I came to the place where Arval became my primary teacher. Remember, Dellmarie, the very first time that I had to pour lodge there in Oglala, and the inipi was all set, and Joaquin kept saying, I'll be there, I'll pour this lodge for you, I'll help you through. And in the back of my mind, I knew it was going to be one of those Heyokha moments. And Buzz, you know, sat there and he made sure that the inipi was all set and done properly. And Joaquin never showed up. And that was his way of making me step forward into that role of pouring that inipi that evening. And so I knew in the back of my mind, even though he kept saying, I'll be there in a few minutes, I knew that he was teaching me in that way. And so it is something that you learn to use your intuition, that's for sure, in the way of being taught like that.
And basically, you know, they always say, you know, that a Heyokha is kind of a lonely person because of the avoidance and ridicule of the people. But mainly, I'm not going to go into the Heyokha business part of it because I don't know very much about it, except for I know that this is something that we don't fool with because
right.
there's repercussions.
Yes.
Repercussions of fooling around with it. So you don't use or you don't try to play Heyokha or whatever unless if you were really taught, about the ways. And I'm going to go deeper into this because I really think about a lot of these things in regards to maybe our ancestors were contacted by extraterrestrial aliens. I know,
Star people.
And that might be kind of something that people don't really understand. And we don't understand. I don't understand it. But I try to correlate a lot of what I know now about the scientific world and everything else, and where the powers come from and why people are chosen to have some of these powers, some of the healing powers, some of these the gestures. They have been picked for a reason, and how deep does that go? From a long time ago when our people didn't really understand that they may have been in touch with higher beings more than what we know. And I've asked that question a couple times in ceremonies, is why can't we see the Tungashilas? And the explanation that was given to me is that we're not ready yet. And I think about the part of the UFOs coming around and people seeing them, but yet they are not really ready to show themselves. It's coming close.
It sure is.
I see that.
It sure is.
So I go deeper with my thoughts on that, is to know that there's higher beings that probably are watching over us and guiding us through our ceremonies. And I'm still trying to understand that. And I know I've had my own experiences. I can even really think about being lifted up in a ceremony and knowing that the entity was not human.
Right.
So I really think about some of those things. Are we running out of time?
Well, we're getting close, but I think we do need to talk about the repercussions of people that are out there practicing ceremonies that haven't been perhaps properly trained or taught.
Okay. For my concern about this is, like I said, and of course everybody knows, throughout time, Europeans, people, indigenous countries, we were given our own gifts of healing, our own ceremonies. And because of more powerful people, we have totally lost some of our ways. And the sad part of it is that some of them, which I'm going to go ahead and look at the good part of it, is to know that we offer our teachings and include a lot of people into our ceremonies because they want to find that journey of their spirituality, or I would probably say, I look at it as saying they want to do good. There's good intentions of wanting to learn and to know about us. And there's sincerity and genuine interest in some of our religions, or the ceremonies. I can remember just watching some of the movies, or I did a little study of comparative religion, so I kind of know about, the loss of some of the ways, the paganism, they were into the natural stuff, but I see a lot of that happen, and I stay open-minded to include people and to want to teach people the right way to say, these are the things that you should understand, why we do these things, why these objects are, and whereas there's another part, and it's kind of a sick feeling to me to know, I can probably tell you a story, and this actually came from Barbara when she was Sundance, and there was a lot of Europeans that came. And apparently they were at rest, and there was a non-native that was there, and they talk as to why they're dancing, and apparently this lady said, well, she said, I just want to experience this because I'm doing my thesis.
Oh my.
And so she said it was quite upsetting to me. She said that she wasn't genuinely in there with her heart to know that she was doing her prayers for the people, whatever, but she was just there to study,
Wow.
So that in a way is kind of like a sinking feeling or a sense of violation.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
And so this is why I think it's important for me to really plead and with people as to, if you want to know about us, please let it be in your heart. Let it be in your heart to understand our ways and to respect it.
Yes.
Because just like any church that I go to, I walk in there with respect. I walked into a Catholic church. I didn't get up there to do my communion because they don't allow non-Catholics to have. Those are just examples that I see when I go somewhere else, and I know that their ceremonies are different. I would want to learn about it, so I don't do anything to obstruct it or to violate anything that I do. I mean, even to pick up sacred objects that we're not supposed to do, And these are some of the teachings. I would rather teach people ahead of time before they go into a ceremony.
Absolutely.
So I look at it. I look at it as saying, I feel for the ones who have lost their way or their spiritual way, or even their religious ceremonies that were lost. However, there's the other negative part of it is there's a lot of Native Americans that do not want people, outsiders, to be involved or to come in because they're leery of the exploitation of our ceremonies, and because a lot of it is diminished, diluted with other ceremonies. Right. They include every other ceremonies, crystals, everything else, And I think for me, I look at as saying that we were all given a gift of ceremonies. We were all given gifts of sacred objects in different cultures.
Absolutely.
And you should know those symbolisms, or to know your practice, but not to dilute it, because I don't think it's a mix. Just like peyote, we were taught to say we stay away from peyote because that is not ours. That's for the Southwest people.
Right.
So, any more questions before I do my conclusion here?
No, I think it was a lot of wonderful information that you shared this morning, Chue, and needed information because, right down to the songs being sung in the language, in my NEP, all of the songs are done in the language, in the Lakota language. And I'm, very blessed to have 3 Chues that make sure that, when you're here in Michigan, or if I'm out there, I'm always learning still. We're always learning, aren't we? But even the importance of singing the songs in the language, and my husband, Todd, he knows them and he practices them that way. And there's a reason for that. And mixing and bringing things in from here and there and willy and nilly, it does dilute the ceremony, and sometimes it does block a ceremony or it bends a ceremony. And I really appreciate that as an elder, you were willing to come on this morning and talk about these things. And as we're talking right now, our Chue Barbara is calling in.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she's ringing in as we're talking.
Well, in conclusion, this is what I'm going to say. I teach these things so that you may have a better understanding of my people as we attempt to revive and keep alive our culture. For those of us who sacrifice ourselves to humor, the mores, the taboos and laws of our ceremonies. We are doing this just so that people can understand a little bit more. And I think it gives, I mean, like I say, the only reason why I teach a lot of this stuff is that it continues to give life to our culture, that people could understand, and that we keep it going. When you listen and when you learn, you're helping us keep our culture alive. Yes. And so this is why I do it. I put myself, I'm sure for some rumors that come about saying that I'm trying to sell my ceremonies or to talk about it. I don't expect anything in return, money-wise or anything. It's just the wisdom and the knowledge that I have to pass on. And I only ask you, all the listeners who are listening, I only ask you that you do not diminish the sacredness by diluting other ceremonies from other cultures with ours. Ask questions and to learn a deep understanding if you are sincerely and genuinely interested for your own spiritual healing and not to exploit ours.
Aye.
And that's all I have to say about that, like Forrest Gump.
Aye. I do a great big Lily, but I think Todd may be in a meeting, so.
And I just hope that if you all have questions, further questions, that's the only way that you're going to know is please ask questions on my website. I'm more than happy to answer as I know what I know.
And Dell is talking about her page, Walk a Good Life. Wichone Washte Manepe here on Facebook. So please, Dell is such a wonderful teacher and so generous with her time. And so if you do have questions, do go on her page. You're probably watching from the page right now. And Wopila Tonka Chue.
You all have a good day and stay with prayers. We need it. We sure need it.
We do.
All right. Have a good day. Ampetu washte, you happy.
Ampetu washte.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, everyone, I'm up next with the Mystic's Heart, and so I'll see you over there on the Mystic's Heart page or the Temple Within page. And again, Wopila Tonka Chue for a beautiful show this morning. Blessings be, everyone.